Hey, what's up, guys? This is Church of Caboose, and for today's Destiny 2 video, I thought we would talk a little bit about, I guess, the meta. It's more how metas are formed. Becomes frustration with the current meta, so I thought we'd talk about how, again, the metas are formed, as well as ways to maybe try and avoid those metas instead of us spending months and months and months doing Mountaintop, Recluse, and Anarchy. So that way, maybe we can have a little bit more variety in the future, and hopefully Bungie might be able to implement some of these ideas in the upcoming Beyond Light. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure you click the like button as well as subscribe to my channel if you want to see more stuff like this. I will swear I will eventually get back to guides. There's just not much needed right now for guides. There's not a whole lot confusing going on, and so we're doing more of these opinion videos since I guess since February. So let's get on into the video. Let's first start by defining what meta means, especially if you're new to Destiny, which could be likely because there's a lot of new folks with new to light and that kind of stuff coming back to the game or into the game altogether. You might not be familiar with some of this terminology, and meta is definitely one of the terms that's been around in Destiny and games like Destiny for quite a while. And this definition is something that I think is the best way of wording it, as well as I would assume to be rather generally accepted by most of the veteran Destiny community. So, the meta is a weapon, subclass, or character that puts you at a disadvantage for not using it. Example would be, say, Mountaintop Recluse Anarchy is absolutely insane, which it was for a while, and if you're not using it, you will be at a disadvantage because you're putting out less damage, which means that you're doing things like the raid boss fights will be a lot more difficult. Or we say, like right now, we got Gnawing Hunger, Summoner, and Hardlight's still pretty popular. Those are all, like auto rifles right now, are really good in PvP. So if you're not using an auto rifle, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage against other guns or against other auto rifles. Hand cannons are pretty hard to use against auto rifles in 6v6. So that's kind of how you would look at what meta is. If you're not using it, you are at a disadvantage. So in Season 11 meta right now, especially in PvP, oh my god, probably why I wanted to make this video is because I was doing Iron Banner a lot solo queue, because the last time I was around, I was doing it with a team, and it was surprisingly easy, so I was like, I want to see what it's like doing it by myself. And I was running into all these 6-stacks, and everyone's using gosh dang auto rifles, and like that's all they're living by, and that's definitely been the meta for quite a while. It's the meta right now. It really got really popular back in Season 10, because of the hard light issue shenanigans that was going on that Bungie tweaked after a couple of weeks. I think auto rifles have actually been fairly popular since, I guess, Shadowkeep, because I believe we had mods and stuff on auto rifles with the seasonal artifacts in Shadowkeep. So let's talk about what are some contributing factors to creating a meta. We have a champion system, which, as I have said before, is a really poor and lazy way of trying to make something harder because it limits your loadout. But anyways, so the champion system, you obviously have to have certain mods on certain guns based off the seasonal artifact, and whenever the seasonal artifact has a mod for a gun, such as Overload, Anti-Barrier, or Unstoppable, there's usually some other perk in that like second tier of the seasonal artifact that does something like enhanced targeting, could be enhanced reload, unflinching aim, or some combination of those three. So those are that's a huge contributing factor, because if you can put something that's already pretty good and then you can have a really reduced mod, it's going to be even better. So then we also have seasonal mods, which are reduced costs and not RNG. It's a little bit with the seasonal artifacts, but there's also some stuff that you could put on that would enhance how those things work. Like you could do, for example, 2 dire artilleries, which give you even more special ammo, stuff like that. So we got artifact mods, which are also kind of like seasonal mods. Then you've got some of those other actual more seasonal mods that can kind of buff how you use those guns that are already really good, although there's not a whole lot specific to auto rifles, but they do help contribute to at least PvE metas, as well as just mods in general that are required to have in order to make the different guns even more effective. Then we've got an issue of some casualization going on. I might make a video specifically about how casualization is kind of hurting the game because there's lots of stuff. For example, the Enlightened title I'm currently working on used to require a flawless clear, and then enough people were like, no, that's too hard. I don't want to do that. And so Bungie's like, we hear you. And they got rid of the flawless requirements, but not on the other titles, which is weird to me. So anyways, so you got casualization, which means we are getting some of the, I think one of the main reasons for these auto rifles is being insane is because Bungie's like, hey, lots of folks are complaining that PvP sucks. And for a while, we were having stuff like hand cannons, pulse rifles, things that required at least a little bit more skill because you had to mostly hit headshots for them to be the most effective. So let's give these casual folks who are saying PvP is too hard a Call of Duty style meta and make auto rifles be what's insane. So anyone's Joe Schmo could just hop on without having two thumbs and do just A-okay. And I think that's what's also going on quite a bit is when you try to cater too much to casualization, you take a lot of fun out of the PvP experience because then you got all those folks who either grew up in Destiny using like the hand cannon meta, where you had which was fine because you still had to hit headshots. If you weren't hitting headshots, you weren't going to do super great, that kind of thing. And so it's really frustrating having it be auto rifles. And then we got with the auto rifles, you can get these gnawing hungers like candy. Like they're too easy to get. So we have not only is it auto rifles, but gnawing hunger specifically is insane. And it's like the easiest thing to get rolls of. Like if you still had to just do gambit indefinitely and just hope for a drop, and then that's how you got your god roll, I can't say this would be as big of a problem. But making it be where it's based off of umbral engrams and all you have to do is turn it into one of the least cost, like using it's like the tier 2 where it's either Gnawing Hunger or Night Watch. Like, that hardly costs anything, especially once you have your prismatic recaster. And so you can just be like, yep, I can farm for like 20 of these Gnawing Hungers a day if I play for like 4 or 5 hours. And that's stupid when it's like the best kind of a weapon. And so it's too easy to get these auto rifles that are insane, which plays into the whole casualization thing because the weapon itself is made for casual folks, and then they switched that weapon to being really good in PvP, and then they made that weapon really, really easy to find in order to use for PvP. And it's just a combination of casualization stuff that really makes building a meta really sucky, and especially this auto rifle meta that we're stuck in, and I hope to God goes away with fall. Ideally, it'd be reset. Like Bungie would watch this, even if there's only one view, and like, oh my gosh, we didn't realize this was so terrible, and then they change it up, but that's probably not going to happen. Another contributing factor, and the last one, in my opinion, is buffs/debuffs affecting PvP. Weapons are unbalanced, requiring little to no skill. Whenever we get like a buff to a weapon or a nerf, it's usually buffed for PvP, nerfed for PvE. It's kind of weird. Like whenever we have something, for example, Bungie's like, we want everyone to use sniper rifles, so they buffed sniper rifles, and so then everyone's like, oh my gosh, and we all use Izanagi's Burden and stuff, and that kind of made sense because, you know, all these raid bosses, like, you can't shotgun them to death because they'll stomp you. So sniper rifles are kind of a go-to anyways. And then Bungie's like, oh, wait. We didn't mean only use sniper rifles, guys, until they completely changed a perk on Izanagi's Burden, making it almost not useless, but hardly ever. Most people don't really use that gun anymore. It took away Outlaw for no distraction, which is a stupid change. I would have understood something like Feeding Frenzy, so then you kind of have, do I have the trade-off of multiple kills to get increased reload, or do I just do the one overload shot and then have to take some time to reload it? Like, that to me would have made more sense. But any hoozles. And so they nerfed the crap out of sniper rifles, which you might be saying, well, that affected PvP, Church. But did it? Like in snipers, you really have to get headshots anyway. So the fact that a couple of classes of snipers went from being 2 body shots to 3 body shots isn't to me that big of a deal because you're trying to hit the head anyways, and every single sniper is a headshot kill, like with one shot. Even an Iron Banner, if you're at significantly lower power than somebody else, you still one-shot kill them to the head, which is probably a whole other video because I think it's stupid how an Iron Banner, there seems to be virtually no difference in having power, which falls more into casualization. Oh, this casualization video, if I do one, it's gonna be a spicy one, and y'all are gonna either love me or hate me for it. But anyways, so the whole main point I was trying to get at here is whenever we get something that gets buffed, is if it gets buffed in PvP and PvE, usually a bunch of like, oh, we didn't want that to happen like that, and then they take it away. But the result isn't a huge impact on PvP like the sniper rifles, and that can kind of build and make these metas even more. And they're making these things where you get weapons that require little to no skill to use or to get, or both. Auto rifles aren't that hard, spray and pray. How many times when you're playing around in Crucible do you see endless auto rifle kills that aren't even precision shots? Like, there's tons of them. So you clearly, it takes a little bit longer. Obviously, the most efficient way to kill somebody is to put all those bullets to the head. And so there are headshot kills. But so many are just body shots because of how fast these auto rifles work, their damage per round, that kind of thing. And so we just have lots of, little skill stuff required. And so perhaps this should have been a little bit more with casualization. But buffs and debuffs do affect the game experience because metas also apply to PvE and not just PvP. Right now, I'm just really annoyed with the PvP. And then on the PvE side, it was getting really tired having it to be almost a year now of it being Mountaintop, Anarchy, and some sort of Recluse or high rate of fire weapon in your energy slot being more or less like the standard. Whenever I do that on Prophecy, I'm usually over 2 million damage. And it's like, why would I not do it? Because that's like one of the better ones you can do. All right, so let's talk a little bit about ways to try and fix this meta, or not necessarily specifically this meta, but try to make, metas in general less quote-unquote meta, so there's a little bit more variety, and I suppose in general it's really less annoying. So we should make it where buffs and debuffs only affects PvE unless something is very broken. So we need to make sure that we're fixing things on both sides. Like, you might think to yourself back in Trials of the Nine, and if you're a new person, you might be aware. Every once in a while, you might see someone running around with a emblem it's mostly black, and you got like a red glowing skull with like a laser pointing on the skull, and the skull kind of looks like it's melting. And that came from a weekend of Trials of the Nine, so this is a while ago, where Prometheus Lens was just released, and it had a time to kill of, it was insane. It was like 0.02, something like that. It was nuts. It was that's what the tag is called, laser tag. You got killed so fast with this gun, it was basically like playing laser tag, because if you got hit, you were dead. That's pretty much how it worked. So we have an emblem now commemorating all of that. Bungie fixed that relatively quickly. If memory serves me right, I believe they fixed it after that weekend of Trials. So that was about a week where that gun was really busted. So it's a pretty rare emblem to see running around. You only got it if you played Trials of the Nine while that whole weapon deal was an issue. Then we've got other issues such as Jotun being a goddamn rocket launcher in the energy slot. That has been a problem since Black Armory when Jotun first became available. So we're on like a year and a half, I think. I'm pretty sure it was here. Forsaken was fall of 2017. Yeah, so this has been winter of 2017. So we're like a year and a half, not that far off from a couple of years of this Jotun thing having no mess to it whatsoever. Spectral blades still has been tweaked a little bit, but still a huge pain in the tuchus. I can Mountain Shop Revoker kill people with one to the head and other roaming supers, but spectral blades, they barely take a dent to their goddamn shields, and then somehow when I use spectral blades, I'm one tapped by something. It's bizarre. So the point I'm trying to show you guys is that when we have things that are messing with PvE, such as Izanami's Burden, they fix it usually within a season or so. They might let something roll out for a season. When we have PvP issues, they could just never be fixed, or if they get tweaked, they're just kind of like, that hardly did anything. One good example is hard light. Honestly, I'm not sure why more people aren't using it. The only thing they did to hard light was increase its or decrease its stability a tiny bit, which people said they hardly really noticed for those that love hard light, and then they reduced the range. So instead of it having a maximum fall off range, it has like regular range damage fall off like everyone else, and then it's the ricochet rounds don't do the double time damage. It's like 1.5. So that just goes to show how many folks were just abusing the crap out of a gun that was like a laser across the map and just shutting off hallways because it required little to no skill. And as soon as that ability was taken away, all the folks that relied heavily on that whole being able to shut hallways down stopped using it. Like that shows a little bit of why the auto rifle meta is so stupid, because people were just using hard light because it was too easy, and now it's gnawing hunger. Granted, hard light they tweak just a little bit, but again, not a whole lot, not very noticeable. So we need to have these kind of game-changing things, like the change to spike grenades within PvE, also apply to PvP. If you want the meta to change, you gotta do big tweaks to guns. PvE changes happen when there's big tweaks to guns and subclasses, so those tweaks need to be big enough to notice on PvP and mess around and have things move, and stop catering to the casual folks who like their subclasses, Bungie. Gosh, I like change. I like change happening. All right, we also need to be able to utilize other weapons for champions. Something that will help this meta to change up would be as if we were to have a variety of weapons that were more than just kinetic available to do barrier damage. So like, why couldn't we have a fusion rifle be anti-barrier? So then you just have one of those little mods like we have right now, where if you just put on an arms mod, any pulse rifle is unstoppable, including exotic ones. Then you can have Jotun be really, really cool for PvE and not just annoying as hell in PvP, because you could just throw on that little, like, any gauntlet mod that's like any fusion rifle becomes anti-barrier and just be toasting away all of those barrier champions with a Jotun. That'd be kind of an entertaining change. That's a change I can believe in. So hopefully we can get some kind of a variety and have it just not be the same classic pulse, submachine gun, auto rifle, hand cannon, sword, or bow doing some stuff as far as champions go. We need special mods that spread across different weapon types, not just champion ones. Or excuse me, not special mods, seasonal mods. Seasonal mods that spread across different weapon types, not just champion ones. I'm not sure why we have these artifacts that are mostly geared towards these different champions, as opposed to giving us some interesting options for unique kind of gunplay. I'm trying to think of something that'd be kind of cool off the top of my head. Like, I'm not sure why we couldn't have, instead of everything being focused around doing champion damage, and then you got some stuff like Oppressive Darkness and Solar Plexus, which granted I really enjoy. Why can't we have more stuff like Oppressive Darkness and Solar Plexus, as opposed to most of the stuff being geared towards getting Glimmer and champion things? Like, Glimmer's not that hard to get. You either use one of those things in your consumables that increases your Glimmer you get for like 4 hours, or go to Spider and spend some resources and just stock up. Like, I don't really get why we need to have all these. I don't even use the Glimmer mods. I only unlock them because I have to get to the next tier. So like, we should have more stuff like Oppressive Darkness and Solar Plexus that'd be more entertaining to use than all these barrier mod things. Like, I really hate the champion system. I think it's so stupid. Which leads us into the next point, which is let's just get rid of the champions. If we get rid of the champions, we get rid of a lot of the stuff in the seasonal mods that creates metas, as well as these annoying metas, because auto rifles have been on the seasonal mod slot in some capacity for, I think, the whole time that artifacts have been around. I don't think we've had a season yet since Shadowkeep where auto rifles haven't been on the artifact in some way or another. Let me know down below if I'm wrong. I could be wrong. I'm going kind of off of memory on this one. It's a little hard to Google and find that one out. I don't think the artifact has never had an auto rifle. So unless we get some kind of a change and the auto rifles aren't even on the seasonal artifact, then that meta is not going to go away. Like, I was actually expecting this season to have nothing for auto rifles because of how dominant auto rifles were last season, and usually the seasonal artifact tries to push you to use one weapon or another, and nope, auto rifles were still heavily benefited by the seasonal artifact for at least the second season in a row, if not 3. Then we gotta do PvP balances for weapons, characters, and subclasses. There shouldn't be a single subclass that can take more damage than another. There should be really nothing preventing one subclass being over another one beyond personal preference. Like, a lot of people prefer top tree Stormcaller with the arc web when you have on Crown of Tempest over bottom tree, because it is vastly better due to arc web and its mobility. So why can't we have some kind of like a health or like a health, something to make it where they're all really the same, and it's just like, yeah, I'm more of a Code of the Juggernaut Titan, or I prefer doing Blade Barrage Hunter. And it's not like, you're not doing Spectral Blades, idiot. Like we just gotta make these things where they're all kind of the same. That's one of the good things I think Call of Duty did. So to some degree, I guess we got Call of Duty this son of a bitch up. Call of Duty, all the guns are virtually the same. Anything that's a submachine gun has very similar, very like virtual, basically the same characteristics. It's just some people prefer one submachine gun over another, as opposed to like, oh, you're not using that, well, you're gonna not kill anybody. Like, if you hop into Iron Banner, if you're not using an auto rifle, you're gonna probably have a hard time, unless you're able to pull off some magic, and sometimes I get lucky. I hate using auto rifles, so for now I've been doing lots of like Thorn, Not Forgotten, Cold Denial, Eye of Soul, Revoker, and Fellwinter's Lie, because I was like, I haven't used the shotgun in a long time. In Mountaintop, I did some Mountaintop too. So if we get these PvP weapon balances where everything's kind of similar, that'd be great. Now you might be thinking to yourself, but Church, you've also said in the past it's a looter shooter. Some stuff is supposed to be better than others. Absolutely, which is where these pinnacle things like Mountaintop, Not Forgotten, Recluse, Revoker come in. That should be better than everything else. But the fact that gnawing hunger, that you can just get like 20 of them a day, is the most dominant weapon in PvP right now, is absolutely stupid when we have so many people, that it's partially because of sunsetting, that aren't even worrying about their Revokers, Not Forgotten, Mountaintops, that kind of thing, because they're like, why not? Everyone else is using gnawing hunger. It's really hard to fight that with guns that require precision kills because of how much flinch they get, so I'm just not going to really use them. And those should be the best guns that are in the game and be above everything else, because they take a lot of time. You can only get one of them. Like, they're a set roll, it's a quest, as opposed to something like Gnawing Hunger where you can get 20 of them a day. And finally, PvP needs to stop favoring lack of skill gap weapons. So we need to switch from favoring things that take virtually no skill to favoring things that favor a skill gap. What I mean by a skill gap is, in order to use something like a sniper rifle, the most effective way to use it is to get headshots. And headshots are moderately difficult to get. Now, some people are better with sniper rifles than others, but snipers is kind of one of those things where you have to be pretty good with the sniper rifle in order to be effective with it. Hand cannons is the same thing. Like, unless you can get headshots, they're not that effective, especially against auto rifles. So you have to be able to get headshots in order to use that weapon effectively, so it requires skill. And so some people will be like stuck at a certain point with how they can use the weapon. Other people will be at a tier above, and that gap in between is what they mean by skill gap. It's how easy is a gun to use for people. So auto rifles are like no skill whatsoever, so they don't have a skill gap. Hand cannons, sniper rifles require skill and at least the ability to aim, so there's at least some skill gap with a hand cannon and a sniper rifle, so that's what I mean by that. Alright guys, thank you all so much for watching this video. I really feel if we implement some of these changes, we can see more variety in the Crucible. I don't know about you guys, I'm tired of seeing nothing but auto rifle kills on the kill feed, and so I enjoy using other stuff, and I kind of like to think to myself, someone might notice there's a hand cannon kill and be like, what? Not a rifle? That's just kind of my hope with all of that. And as always, I encourage you guys, if you don't like something, then don't play it. The only way Bungie will know what's good and what isn't good is if you don't play it. However, putting loot like to the aerial dead zone when I already know I'm going to hate it, and if I want the loot, so I'm going to play it, isn't the best way for them to figure out what the people like. But if you don't like something, don't play it. I hate using auto rifles unless I really have to win like I did for Unbroken, and so I don't really use auto rifles unless I'm getting really, really annoyed, and then I'll usually on stream make some joke about like, oh look, I put on an auto rifle and guess what, now I'm killing everybody. Like, that's kind of kind of the joke I go for. So let me know down below what you guys think with this current meta, past metas, if you agree with the factors that create a meta, and my ideas of ways to fix and to try to have more of a variety of options as opposed to a disadvantage for not using something. And let me know down below because I'd be really curious to find out. Thank you guys all so much for watching. I am Church of Caboose. Have a great week and happy grinding, y'all.